Hey everyone! In our last few videos we took a look at what CSS is and started applying a few styles to our header element, and in this video we're going to start tackling the next two sections, our image slider and recent news. Now you might be thinking, if both sections use the same element selector but require different styles, then we're kind of screwed. It just so happens that there are different types of selectors, one of them being the ID selector. This allows us to give an element a unique ID, which allows us to reference it specifically to prevent style mix-ups or overrides. On our image slider selection, we're going to give it an ID of image underscore slider. And on our recent news, we're going to give it an ID of pretty much the same format, recent underscore news. To reference these sections in our style sheets, all we have to do is put a hashtag followed by the ID name, so image underscore slider, and hashtag recent underscore news. Both sections are going to have a fixed height of 400 pixels. Often there will be times in coding where different elements have the same CSS declarations. In that case, we can define multiple selectors for one declaration by separating the selectors with a comma. So if I take my recent news, I copy it or cut it and paste it up here next to my image slider, this height property value declaration will apply to both the image slider and recent news. Our image slider is going to consist of different images. I have 3 images here that I have yet to rename. Coffee, 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 coffee. You can use whatever photos you like, but be sure to have rights for the photo if you're going to use it for commercial use. I like using pixabay.com. They are free and have a wide variety of high quality photos. I'm going to place these images within our image slider here. I believe you might be able to click and drag them. Yes. One of the beautiful things about PHP Storm is that you can click and drag your photos in and it creates the element for you. Not very good if you're trying to learn HTML, but a lot faster than having to type it out all the time. I wouldn't recommend it, but you know, shortcuts. So the question now is, what is the best way to target these elements in this scenario? There are 2 common solutions. We could use the element selector and define the scope of it to only select the image element. So we can do that by saying hashtag image underscore slider greater than image. And what this is essentially saying is that any image element that has the parent, direct parent image slider, then we're going to target that. This will work on a macro level, but what if we wanted certain types of photos to be displayed differently? We don't really have a distinction between this image and this image, or this image and this image. What if this is about coffee? What if this is a promo slide and we wanted a call to action, but we wanted the call to actions to be displayed differently? We have no distinction between that. And having this kind of selector isn't really going to help us. Technically, we could apply an ID to these and then reference the IDs, but that doesn't really have a good scalable future with it, because if we were to add photos in the end, then we'd have to apply a unique ID to every one of those and then somehow dynamically reference it in our CSS, and that just becomes kind of messy. So instead, we can use something called the class selector to target custom groups of elements if they belong to that class. So let's add a class element or class attribute to our images with a value of slides. So we go class equals quotation quotation slides. And I'm going to, for purposes, just copy and paste this. Don't copy and paste. People don't like copying and pasting. If it's on a small scale level like classes or HTML, I believe it's okay. If you're copying programming code, you might want to reconsider what you're doing. So now that we have all our images, all of our image slider images, part of the class called slides, we can now reference this class in our CSS by doing a period slides. Now I want these images to take up as much space as they can within our image slider. So let's make the width 100% and height 100%. This will stretch our image to fill the space provided by our parent element, the image slider. But we don't want our image to stretch. We want it to scale proportionally, so that way the photo's resolution can stay the same. There's an awesome property for this called object fit. Now, object fit is great for content with dynamic dimensions. Arguably, static images should have the same dimensions for performance reasons, but in a case where photos or media is uploaded by a user, the dimensions are going to differ. So we can use the object fit and apply the contain value to it. This way it will have the image scale to it will have the object or image scale the image to fit within our container while maintaining its aspect ratio. So we don't even need our width and height anymore. We can delete that. Save this, and let's hop on over to Chrome. Actually, I lied. We are going to need to maintain these width and height attributes to let the slide know to find the actual dimensions of where we want our boundaries, and then tell the object fit to, these are our boundaries, but make the image fit within these boundaries. Make them contain within these boundaries. So now we'll hop on over to Chrome, and if we refresh, we can see our images here, and they're all the same dimensions. Well, within reason to their native resolution. But the problem that we have here is that they're overflowing into our other content. But why is that? That's because we haven't, just because we have images and object fit, they're not going to contain, I think overflow by default is set to visible. So one way we can actually temporarily fix this is if we go back into our PHP storm, and on our image slider in recent news, if we have any overflowed content, we can say overflow hidden. And that means that any of their child elements, if it's going to go out of the width or height range of our predefined dimension, so if we have a height of 400 pixels, but our images are going to go out of that 400 pixels, we don't want to show what's being overflowed. We don't want to show what's going over that 400 pixels. So we'll just say to hide it. We'll save that. We'll go back over into Chrome and give it a refresh, and now we can see that our image after this point is hidden. Now, another way to have solved this is if we didn't have the predefined height of 400 pixels, then our image slider would then automatically go probably all the way down to the end of where the image stack is, and then that would be the height of our image slider. But we don't want that. We kind of want to constrain our proportions here and be like, yes, the height of it is going to be 400 pixels. Let's restrict the height of the element explicitly and not through the photos, because that is bad. Setting the height of an element based off of the photo's height is, you don't know what could happen. Something could happen. So it's always better to be explicitly saying this element is going to be this height. And whatever's in it might get overflowed, might be smaller, something, it might not even show the image, but that's okay. It's better to have that than it is to have your it distorted distorted image slider height and all that junk. So if we right click and inspect, we can then see our images are still here, but they are hidden. In the next video, I'm going to go over how we can control which slide we want to be active at what time. Thanks again for watching, guys. If you liked the video, be sure to give it a like. If you want to stay up to date on the 0 to 100 web development series, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Have a great day. Take it easy. Peace.